So thank you for rejoining class. Actually, it's called early exit because right after third grade, students are expected to be proficient enough in Filipino and English to the point that the mother tongue is forgotten, is disregarded, and education is all in Filipino and English. Many MTBMLE advocates say we should at least have MTBMLE up to grade 6. Up to grade 6. But since it's up to third grade only, it's called early exit. You see, class, the MTBMLE program in the Philippines was only grudgingly agreed upon by the Senate and by congressmen, and they were not very willing to spend a lot of money for MTBMLE. They had these elitist views that kept them from producing an education system that really caters and responds to the needs of many of our countrymen. Actually, class, this is the ideal. What really happened in the Philippines was not what was intended to happen. For example, among the Ginsalugan in Mindanao, the MTB, the mother tongue based education, was not really in their own language. It was in the regional language. And needless to say, there's such strong shift to Cebuano in the case of the Ginsalugan because Cebuano was the regional language. It was the it was the actual language used for kinder to third grade, not really the Ginsalugan language. So there's so many disparities between what was expected and what is really happening. Okay, so that's transitional. Then we also have mainstream plus withdrawal for second language or foreign or second language classes. Once again, foreign language, English as a foreign language means outside of the classroom, there's no English. Such is the case in Japan, where everything is in Japanese. The signboards are in Japanese, the TV programs are in Japanese, everything is in Japanese. And everything in the school is Japanese. The textbooks, the curriculum, everything is in Japanese. But then the Japanese government felt that it would be good for the Japanese to learn English because of the special relationship between Japan and the United States. And so the Japanese government maintained that there should be English language classes for the Japanese. But the Japanese students were not really interested so much in English, in learning English, because they don't see any need for learning English. So this is an example of mainstream plus withdrawal for foreign second or second language classes. So mainstream is Japanese, but there's a special class for learning a foreign language or a second language. So that was for the Japanese. Now for the Chinese here in the Philippines, you have mainstream plus supplementary foreign or second language classes. So in the mainstream, it's Filipino and English that's taught. It's the majority languages. But parents have decided that they want their children to learn another language. In this case, it's Mandarin or Hokkien. So the students or the teacher, the parents are willing to pay money to hire a teacher and hire rent a classroom, and maybe on Saturdays or sometimes weekdays, the children undergo a class in Mandarin or Hokkien because the parents want them to learn those languages because they think they could it could give them an advantage. Like if you know Mandarin, then you can do business with China and Taiwan and Singapore. So they have supplementary foreign or second language classes. The supplementary classes are paid for by the parents. Needless to say, the parents have the capability to provide for such an education. Then we have what we call separatist separatist with withdrawal second language classes. This is the case in the Basque region in the 1940s during the time of the dictator Franco. The Basque region has a history of wanting to separate from Spain. And in the 1940s, the Basque region was so politically powerful, financially capable, that they took over the education system in their region. So the Basque people took over the education system in their region. And in this kind of setup, let me see. Uh, all the subjects are taught using the minority language. Okay, all the classes are taught using the minority language. In this case, Basque, but there is a special class for learning Spanish. So there's a special class for learning the majority language. This type of education, it's called ikastolas in the Basque region. This type is intended to lead to political autonomy for the minority. Okay, so in the case of the Basque region, the education system was called Ikastolas. Everything is taught using the Basque language, but there's a special class for learning Spanish. Then we have the two-way or dual language immersion. Class in this setup, subjects are taught twice using two languages. The idea is to produce students who are bicultural and biliterate. Onwards. Imagine, hello, mic testing. So, I believe, class, that this should have been done in the Philippines in the 19 starting the 1946 all the way to the present. Imagine Tagalogs being taught social studies using Tagalog and Cebuano. Cebuano speakers being taught social studies twice. First is Cebuano, then Tausug. Okay, so that would have made us more closer to each other. So in this type of bilingual education, the subjects are taught in both the majority and minority languages. And one of the main goals is to produce students who are proficient in bilingual and biliterate, who are proficient and bilingual and biliterate in both languages. So the intent is to produce a multilingual and multicultural society. In this system, the class is a mixture of majority and minority language classes. Again, in this system, the class is a mixture of majority and minority language classes. Maybe in places like Aurora, where there's a mixture of Tagalog, Ilocano, and Kapampangan, maybe this would have been really nice. So imagine they become biliterate instead of uh, instead of being at war with each other, in animosity with each other. They would consider themselves as being bicultural. They are both Tagalog, Kapampangan, and Ilocano. Then we have the mainstream plus supplementary heritage language classes. So in this system, the education of learners is done through the majority or the mainstream language. However, parents and other members of the heritage ethno-linguistic community to which the learners belong or hold affinity organize classes. The parents and other members of the ethno-linguistic group, they organize classes in which the heritage language and culture is taught. So this is the case for migrants like Chinese who have a strong affinity with the ethno-linguistic group from which they came. Needless to say, the members of the heritage community have enough resources to set up a supplementary ethno-education program. So how is this different, class? How is this mainstream plus supplementary heritage language classes? How is this different from mainstream plus supplementary foreign or second language classes? The difference is in the purpose. So mainstream plus supplementary foreign or second language classes are not necessarily for the sake of heritage. So for example, the Chinese here who speak Hokkien, the supplementary foreign language classes could be Mandarin, not because it's their heritage, but because it would give them a business advantage. On the other hand, the mainstream supplementary heritage language classes are intended to transmit the the language and culture of the parents to the children. So even though in the mainstream, the language used is Tagalog or Filipino and English, but then the Chinese, they want their children to maintain their Chinese identity, so they pay. It's gone again. There you go. So you have separatists with withdrawal second language classes taken over by the region which wants to separate. Classes are taught using the language of that region, but there's a special class for learning the majority language, like Spanish. So, Icastolas is the name of the education system of the Basque region during the 1940s. And as I said, there's also dual language immersion, in which s- subjects are taught twice, from in one language and in another language. The idea is for students to become bicultural. So Tagalog speakers being taught social studies using Tagalog and Cebuano. Cebuano speakers being taught science using Cebuano and Tausug, which we should have done a long time ago. Then we have mainstream plus supplementary heritage language classes. The parents here, the school here is still the majority language, like Filipino and English, but the parents want to transmit their own culture and language to their students. So they have enough money. They set up an additional class in which their children learn the culture and language of the parents. Okay. Then you have maintenance bilingual education. So this type of education seeks to maintain knowledge of the minority language and culture. So it seeks to preserve the dying language and culture. So maintenance is usually set up in order to save the dying language and culture, to reverse language shift. And the students are language minority students. Both the majority and minority languages are used for teaching. The students here are language minority students in a bilingual education program that is intended to make them capable of being able to discuss different content using both the majority and the minority language. So I imagine class this could be well good in Pampanga, in Kapampangan. So in Pampanga, there's a lot of language shift, especially among young children. So what you could do is you have those minority students, minority those Kapampangan students in class, and they are taught using both Tagalog, English, and Kapampangan. Okay, so in other words, they continue to speak Kapampangan because of the maintenance education system. Then we have immersion. Now, immersion is a form of bilingual education that provides students with sheltered classrooms in which they receive at least half of their subject matter instruction through the medium of a language that they are learning as a second foreign heritage or indigenous language. So, for example, in Canada, English language speakers are taught using French. So, the idea is uh, to make the majority language speakers proficient in the minority language. So, for example, in Canada, the majority language is English, but the English language speakers are taught in order for them to be proficient in French, the minority language. So first, they are taught using mic test, mic test, mic test. Okay. So the idea is first, the English language speakers are taught French, which is the minority language, which they are intended, which they are expected to learn. And then progressively, they're taught using the majority language. Make no mistake here, class, the students are already familiar with French. It's not something from zero proficiency. So the students are not taught using a language that is unfamiliar to them, but they are taught using the minority language, which they are quite familiar with already. Okay, then we have mainstream bilingual education setup. So this is very similar to maintenance programs, but in this case, all languages are considered majority languages. Again, let me repeat that. In mainstream bilingual, all languages are considered majority languages. Remember, class, our discussion. So there's a discussion. There's a lot of support from the mother country. So it's such that students can be taught using both languages, and both languages can be considered majority languages. Come back, please. Come back. Ayaw na naman. Ayan, buti ba? So for mainstream bilingual, both languages are considered majority language. This is the case in Brunei and in the trilingual education system in the Grand Duchy of the Netherlands, of Luxembourg. But then, as your Brunei group told you, uh, the the tragedy is that it's English and Standard Malay that's taught, not Brunei Malay that's used. Now, in Luxembourg, you have Frisian, you have Dutch, you have English. All these languages have strong support from the mother country. The speakers of these languages have enough resources to support dual language immersion. And then finally, we have two-way or multi-way mainstream bilingual. This is like MTBMLE without forgetting the mother tongue. Again, this is like MTBMLE without forgetting the mother tongue. So the PowerPoint didn't appear again. Let me just dictate it to you. Two slash multi hyphen way slash multi hyphen way mainstream by slash multilingual. Two slash multi-way mainstream by slash multilingual education setup. In this type of bilingual education system, students come from several different ethno-linguistic groups, but all of them are considered majority language groups. Initially, students from each ethno-linguistic groups are put in one class and instructed using the mother tongue while also being taught other languages. With all languages being equally valued, the system produces multilingual and multiliterate students. So this is the case in Europe. Class Europeans tend to be bilingual, and many of them actually know three or more languages because of the multi-way mainstream multilingual setup. All languages are taught to different ethno-linguistic groups, and so they become proficient in one another's languages. Okay, so we end there, and I wonder if you have any questions. Any questions? So if there are no more questions, then thank you very much, class. Have a nice day. You are dismissed. Bye bye.